All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and welcome to this afternoon's NASCAR coverage on the channel for NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying from the Iowa Speedway for this weekend's Iowa Corn 350. We have obviously practice for you starting right now with the NASCAR Cup Series. First cars have just hit the racetrack, and we will get our usual group practice back for this weekend, where we will have 25 minutes for two different groups of cars. Group 1 obviously out there right now, then Group 2, we'll get into single car qualifying immediately after that. It doesn't look like there's any weather that could be pushing the practice and qualifying stream behind us. The last 2 weeks we've had weather issues. Dover completely washed out for practice and qualifying. Last weekend we had a minimized practice because when they were supposed to have a full session on Friday at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that got canceled for rain. So good to see cars on the racetrack, and good to see that they're at least going to get their full allotted practice time for this week. Ross Chastain quickly setting the top time. AJ Allmendinger just broke that over the last lap or so. 15 of the 18 cars in Group 1 have hit the racetrack. So let me get chat up on my phone because I don't have you guys yet. But of course, thanks for tuning in. This is the first weekend that we'll see NBC and USA Network carrying over for the rest of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, albeit True TV still having practice and qualifying coverage. So if you're wondering for visual purposes where you can watch practice and qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series right now, that is on True TV, which is the same that it has been for the last couple of weeks since Turner Sports took over their portion of the NASCAR schedule. Frank Powers, Shahir Gaming and Entertainment, Emogene Blevins, Matthew Dorda Bruno, Marcus Villarreal. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Like goal is, as usual, 50 for these live commentary streams for Cup practice and qualifying, so we'll see how that goes right now. Eric Jones jumping up to P2 on the practice sheet, 23.823 the last lap. Fast lap right now for AJ Allmendinger, which is still the fastest time in these first 3 minutes, is a 23.793. We should see quite a bit of tire wear here at Iowa, even though that the corners were repaved last season. The straightaways were not. Still relatively old surface for the parts of the racetrack that aren't repaved. And albeit, honestly, last year, you can say what you want about the next-gen car on short tracks and the package not being very good, but I thought last year's race at Iowa was one of the better short track races that we had last season, so hopefully we'll have the same to be said for, again, this week. Chastain outright making a pass on Joey Logano. Logano struggling for speed in the early going, as he has unloaded with some pretty bad speed in practice at various times so far this season. He's currently 11th out of 18 that have hit the track. And his teammate Ryan Blaney, who will be in Group 2 practice, getting interviewed by Dale Jarrett right now in the pit box.
Yeah, this was probably just trying to use this last year.
You're not going to be able to hear him. I don't know why that they're deciding to do this interview as practice is going on. You can definitely tell that they're trying something new on Turner Sports, and I don't think it was a very good idea. At least with this being a short track and having cars spread around the racetrack at once, I mean, you can't hear a word Ryan Blaney saying. As you probably could hear just car noises in the background when I unmuted the TV for a quick second. Yeah, I did see that Stuart Friesen accident earlier in the week. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. I would imagine he's going to be likely to be out for the rest of the season. So well wishes are with him, that is for sure. Couple of broken bones. John Barber, welcome to the stream. Looking forward to the coverage this weekend. Appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you all back for yet another stream. Oh, wow. Showing a replay of Tyler Reddick having a near mishap in turn one a couple of laps ago. Dirt tracking his way into the first corner. Looked like he was trying to settle in that middle groove of the racetrack, because that's where he's running right now through turns 1 and 2. Obviously, right in the center of where the freshly repaved portion of the racetrack is. The grip strip, if you will. It's not as dark as what it was last season when it was freshly repaved. Iowa Speedway's had several races since not only last year's Cup race. IndyCar's already been there for a doubleheader this weekend. And obviously NASCAR's turn this time around. Seven minutes already in. Cody Ware's fourth quickest in practice. I believe he was the last of the 19 cars in this first group to go out on the racetrack. But that's shocking. Tyler Reddick had another moment in turn 3. Not as yawed out as what he was in turn 1 several laps ago, but turn 3 it looked like he overdrove the corner. I think at this point he's just trying to find his limit. Because he's definitely got speed in the race car. You can see he's the fastest overall in this practice session with a 23.579. That's over a tenth quicker than AJ Allmendinger's best lap. And usually in practice, several drivers from the first group can kind of hang on to the Group 2 times, but we usually see a collective group of the Group 2 drivers atop the leaderboard. Track gets rubbered in. They're able to look at the SMT data that these teams are not able to look at because nobody's been on the track so far this weekend. That's just the advantage of being able to look at other teams' data compared to basically just going out there and, I don't want to say winging it because these teams test all week, every week for getting to the racetrack, seeing what they'll unload with balance-wise, but a little easier to adapt for Group 2. Excited for SummerSlam tonight, of course. It's going to be great. Kind of sucks I'm going to miss like the first half of the show, but if I were to miss it for one thing, NASCAR would be that one thing. So in the broadcast booth for this practice session, it's Marty Snyder along with Steve Letarte and Jeff Burton. First week of USA Network coverage. Obviously, the race tomorrow on USA Network. And the CW's still taking care of Xfinity for the rest of the season. Fox and Fox Sports 1 for the truck side. Only one set of tires for this session, so with that being said, and the amount of tire fallout that we're going to see on this short track here at Iowa Speedway, I would imagine that we're not going to see any changes in the leaderboard now that all 19 drivers have made at least a few laps. Tyler Reddick, again, has the fastest time, 23.571. He's already put down 23 laps in this session, and we still have about another 15 minutes to go. Kyle Busch is second quickest right now with a 23.658. AJ Allmendinger in third. Ross Chastain fourth. Austin Dillon rounds out the top 5 in pits. So both RCR cars up inside the top 5. Then Eric Jones in 6th. Cody Ware has dropped back to 7th. Riley Herbst in 8th. Michael McDowell 9th. Ty Dillon in 10th. Shane Van Gisbergen 11th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 12th. Josh Berry 13th. Noah Gragson 14th. Joey Logano 15th. And Cole Custer in 16th. Daniel Suarez 17th. Zane Smith 18th. Joey Gase 19th. And that rounds out the 19 cars in this first group. We'll take a look at the point standings coming into this weekend and highlight that next. On the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, we have just 4 races to go in the regular season. After this weekend, we'll be down to 3. Chase Elliott is the regular season points leader for the second consecutive week, although his lead has dwindled just a bit. He's only got a 4-point advantage over William Byron in second. Kyle Larson's only 15 back in third. Denny Hamlin minus 20 in fourth, even after missing a race at Mexico City a little earlier in the summer. That's an incredible battle that is definitely shaping up for the home stretch. We got a lot of variety in the schedule to go. We got two very similar short tracks, albeit with Iowa and Richmond, but then we've got a road course in Watkins Glen and, of course, the Super Speedway at Daytona to round things out. 15 playoff points are awarded to the regular season champion, and it's 1 point for a playoff point per position for the rest of the top 10 after that. So even if you don't necessarily win it, there's still something to fight for second, third, fourth. But if you win the regular season title, I don't want to say that's an automatic berth for the championship four because we have seen upsets happen in the past. But since having the 16-man playoff format in 2014, 11 years of doing this, this is the 12th. We've only seen twice where the regular season champion has not won, or sorry, not advanced into the championship four with at least a shot at the title. You look at that group of drivers up there that are contending. I mean, those are drivers who you would probably expect to have a pretty strong case for the championship for. Byron's made it each of the last 2 seasons. It's been a couple years for Chase Elliott. Hasn't been in the championship four since 2022. But then Kyle Larson, who just missed out on it last year, was there the season before that. Denny Hamlin also just barely missed out last season. And arguably one of his better seasons of his NASCAR Cup career up to this point through 21 completed races for himself. So enough on the regular season championship battle. Those guys obviously very tight amongst one another. And I wouldn't even necessarily count out Christopher Bell or Tyler Reddick. If things go their way, they're minus 62 and minus 71 in 5th and 6th. With 4 races to go, being over 1 full race worth of points back because you can score only 61 points in a full race. It's not likely with that many drivers to jump to get to position number 1, but they're definitely not mathematically out of it. Might have to refresh the page here. Try to get the playoff standings up on my screen. There we go. I was going to say it was working for me before the stream started. All right, so 13 different winners after last weekend with Bubba Wallace getting his first win at the Brickyard 400 last weekend. The drivers locked in with the win of the 13 would be Denny Hamlin, who has the most at 4. 3 drivers with 3 wins of Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and Shane Van Gisbergen. Chase Elliott with 1 win. Same for William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Josh Berry are those 13 drivers, again, who are locked in, assuming we don't get more than 16 winners, which could happen if we get a new winner the last 4 weeks, but the unlikelihood of that happening, these are the drivers who are, as of right now, above the cut line going into this weekend. Tyler Reddick plus 138, Alex Bowman plus 63, Chris Buescher plus 42, after Wallace, who last week went in the first driver above the cutoff line. That really put a pretty big points gap between Buescher and Priest. Priest went into last week minus 17 to that of Bubba Wallace. The week before that even, he was only minus 2 points. And here he is now minus 42. He still has a shot to point his way in. It's going to be tough, though, considering he's trying to chase a teammate, similar equipment every week. Probably going to be in a must-win situation if I had to guess based off of the raw speed that both the 17 and the 60 have had this season. The 17 has definitely been a bit better, which is why he is 42 points ahead of Priest. But the marginal gap between those two on a week-to-week basis, I don't think is going to be enough for Priest to be able to point his way in, unless he gets a lot of help if, say, Bowman DNFs a couple times, or even Buescher runs into early problems that are not necessarily of the equipment side of things. Kyle Busch, minus 81 points, has fallen back quite a bit. He was minus 37 going into last week, but again, with that points cutoff line moving, with Wallace getting the win, and also not such a great finish last week for Busch, had some damage early in stage 1. Not looking good for him. Ty Gibbs had an off week last week, even though he got $1 million richer winning the in-season tournament challenge. Finishing outside the top 20 and not scoring a lot of stage points has put him now minus 95 after he was doing a great job clawing his way out of a deficit of more than 130 points over a 13-race stretch. Gave up quite a bit of points just last week alone. He went in minus 56. So, yeah, gave up a lot. And again, that new winner really, really hurt him. AJ Allmendinger on back, I would imagine. Definitely in a must-win situation. They're more than 2 full race worth of points out of first. So that is a season outlook so far through the first 22 races of the year and how they've shaped up going into race 23 for this weekend. Bubba Gish, thanks for tuning in. And anybody else who I might not have given a shout out throughout the course of the stream so far. We're up to 18 likes on our goal to get to 50. A little less than 10 minutes to go for Group 1 practice. I'll let you listen into the True TV booth.
Yeah, you're like, I don't think I learned anything in these 2 days.
Yeah, you come with such high hopes of through this test list and working through a lot of things, but if the weather doesn't doesn't kind of help you out, it can be so frustrating. For the A to Kyle Busch, though, I think they're just, they're slowly, I don't know if improving is the right word, but they're just looking for some consistency. There are tracks, Jeff, that they unload where I'm like, all right, RCR's turning the corner. I think they have decent speed. Then all of a sudden they'll show up the next week and they're just way off. So far here, he's second on overall speed for a fast lap, but he's only run.
Oh, cigarette!
Oh boy, Bluestone entry. We've seen it multiple times. Talk to me.
Busch hit hard.
Yeah. Wow, man, that was
Oh, you got no brakes now.
Yeah. Wow, that was good. I was just saying that they were looking for some consistency, and this is the type of thing that will put the whole weekend out of touch. What a huge hit.
It was a huge hit, and he and his teammate Austin Dillon both had pretty decent speed. Both high up on the board, had good long run speed. But this is certainly going to make their weekend harder, Kim.
Yeah, that's for sure. And for a summer that's been really tough for this team, this is not what they wanted to see. They were hoping everything would go right here at Iowa. Didn't really get on the radio from Kyle what he felt like happened to cause that incident. Right before that, though, he gave some feedback on the car. He said the right rear was chattering everywhere. He said he needed to trust the rear more so he could go faster. He said when the tires warmed up, I found the limit. Too free, but the front end did turn good.
Man, Jeff, walk us through what Kyle was dealing with here. I mean, we've seen so many cars free on entry here today.
So watch right here. This is where the wreck starts. Right there. Car goes around, overcorrects the car.
That's a hard
right.
hit.
These cars, it's very easy to overcorrect, especially on corner entry and right along. I mean, that is so close to what we saw in a wreck. Right? I mean, you're talking the exact same thing, except for this car just turned right. But what a huge hit with the right front. Remember, Kelm said that he was talking about the right rear chattering, right? And so what that means, the right rear tire is just not making grip in the racetrack. It's too loose. And so on corner entry here, it is the loosest part of the racetrack, and that right rear is chattering. And we talked about, and Kyle talked about finding the edge. It's a razor blade. And if you go over the edge by any at all, you stand a chance of this happening. And he thought he was there. He thought he knew where the grip limit was, but right rear doesn't grip, and round it goes.
Is it possible to describe to folks at home behind the wheel how much reaction time you have when something like that happens, Jim?
Well, so the immediate attempted correction to save the car, that happens in a millisecond. I mean, it's just a reaction that you have learned through the years of your driving. That from the time that okay, I'm in trouble and I'm going to hit, that seems to take forever. And the minute that he turned right to save the car, and you saw the car start to shift weight to the left side, he knew he was in trouble. He knew at that point, I'm going head on in the wall, and that is a horrible feeling.
Man, Kyle Busch was second fastest on the charts with that primary car. Obviously going to have to go to the backup car here. A big wreck in practice for Kyle Busch. Group 1 still has 5 minutes to go. Hoping to get back out on the track after this wreck from the RTR team.
I'll tell you what, that's about as hard as you can hit the wall on a short track. Kyle Busch breaking free into turn 1. Same spot where Tyler Reddick was very loose on entry just several laps before the Kyle Busch incident. 17 laps for Busch in practice, was second quickest overall so far. Of course, we're only in Group 1, and the caution timing had about 8 minutes left on the clock, so I'm curious to see how much time NASCAR is going to give the rest of the drivers in Group 1 practice, if they're going to have 8 minutes left on the clock, or if this is going to end this first session, because they're definitely going to have quite a bit of lengthy cleanup following that hit for Kyle Busch. Yeah, it just looked like the car broke free and he had an overcorrection, and the car definitely did not slow down much. And it's wayward into hitting the wall as hard as he did. It was a massive, massive impact. Head on. Pretty much with the right front. The car's destroyed. Ended up catching fire as it was rolling backwards down the racetrack. Said he lost his brakes from the time that he ended up hitting the wall. Not losing the brakes as a result of the incident itself, but after the impact, knocked the brakes out of it, basically. Tradesgate 1025, thanks for tuning in. Second, but going to a backup car now. Hopefully he is okay, obviously. He did get out of the car underneath his own power. He'll be taking the mandatory trip to the infield care center, but that was just a violent impact. Wonder what speed he was flying down the track. Yeah, I mean, mid-corner speeds at Iowa, I would imagine, are over 100 miles per hour. This is a short track, but it's one of the bigger short tracks that we have. It is less than 1 mile in length. About the size of Richmond, if not a little bit bigger. What happened? The car broke free. Turn one, a little loose. Back end started sliding out from underneath him, and in a millisecond, trying to correct it, ended up overcorrecting it and smashed the outside wall head on. There's a lot of distance to travel from the time where his car broke loose to the time he had impacted the outside wall, which made the hit as violent as it was. And he didn't really have a chance to get on the brakes, obviously, to slow the car down to keep from hitting it as hard as he did. All split-second maneuvers and cleanup underway in turns 1 and 2. With his car backing down the racetrack and quite a ways around the racetrack backwards with having no brakes, this is going to be a lengthy caution, I would have to assume.
One of the best with
Dale Jarrett breaking down the incident
that we have ever seen, making speed, doing all the right things. As we see him get down in here, and we saw this out of probably 4, 5, 6 drivers had this same thing, but they were able to save their car. But the speed he was carrying, and once this car turned right, there's no getting it back with this car. And this is a situation that I've seen over the years with Kyle Busch with this particular car as he changed to this car. There are things that just don't fit the way that he likes to feel in the car and things that he's doing. And also, Jeff, I think you'll understand this. And as drivers, as we chase speed, when you don't have that speed that Steve was talking about week to week, that they're seeing this a little bit more, then when you start chasing that, you make the car a little more uncomfortable, and you get in that situation, the car's good, until all of a sudden it has that one moment that it's not, and you find yourself in this. And, this is just Kyle Busch trying to get the very most out of this, wanting to have an opportunity to go and win the race and get himself in the playoff this weekend.
Yeah, DJ, we unfortunately have all been part of slumps in our career. 79 races ago was the last time that Kyle Busch won a race, and that is not Kyle Busch. And so you're looking at yourself. I know Kyle, everybody thinks Kyle Busch is just this, very, very confident, almost arrogant guy. He's not really that way. He has confidence in himself, but he also is looking to how to be a better race car driver. How do I find maximum grip? What do these cars need to do better? And things like this kind of set that confidence back even more. It's just only natural. I mean, I've been through it. I know, DJ, you've been through it. You start questioning yourself a little bit. There's no way you can't. And I know RCR too. We heard RCR. We heard Richard Childress on the radio a few weeks ago saying, we've got to make these cars better, period. We've got to make them better for our drivers. So the pressure's not only on Kyle Busch, it's also on Richard Childress as they try to get this team where they want it to be.
Well, let's add the timing of where we're at in the season as well. Right here, minus 81. Right, Kyle Busch knows that it's time to go. I know they're trying to get the company better, and I know the season won't be lost without making the playoffs, and they'll continue to try to win a race. But Kyle Busch entered 2025 with the goal of making the playoffs. RCR expects that with both cars. That would be their goal, especially with Kyle Busch.
Yeah, and this would be the second consecutive year in a row that we may see both RCR cars out of the playoffs. Austin Dillon did get a win at Richmond last season, so they were able to get a race win. And with Richmond still coming up on the schedule, and this being the closest racetrack to Richmond, probably not a shock to see that both Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch were in the top 5 on the speed charts leading up to this Busch incident. Obviously, Busch is still going to be posted in second, even as practice before this first group concludes. But obviously going to have to start at the tail end of the field, and he's going to be making his first laps of the race tomorrow in a car he hasn't been able to sit in all weekend. So we shall see what's in store for Busch tomorrow. But first things first, obviously, again, make sure that he is going to be checked, cleared, released from the infield care center. I would assume we would get an interview with him at some point during the rest of this practice session, and you'll get to listen into that as well.
Drivers, you're taught you have to find the limit. You have to push your car past the limit. That's why we saw Reddick out through. That's why we saw Chastain. That's why we saw this. Is you have to operate on the very edge of it. And if you're going to do that, you're going to cross over into your point, Steve, in new conditions.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a year older. It's a newer tire. It's cooler than it was here last year. There are a lot of things that are different. And so things change. Times we don't even understand why they changed. But this is not an easy profession.
Good luck, Group 2. Jack's great.
You're such an encouraging leader,
Cannonball
Steve.
raining, guys. Everything's great. Water's great.
Come on in, including Christopher Bell. Dave, I believe you're with him.
I am, Marty. He is in Group 2, so he's been watching all this, including fellow Toyota Tyler Reddick, who he'll get some data from. But I think all the data you might be able to see. Loose in race cars, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal to be loose in on short tracks. You want it to be free. You want it to roll the corner really good. So coming to places like here, Richmond, Phoenix, like you're expecting it to be a little loose in, but clearly it's caught a lot of people off guard how free the conditions are today. Yeah, and Kyle just took it to the next level. That was really weird, though, how he got loose in, he corrected, and then it never got any response whenever he turned the wheel back left. So that was a massive hit, and yeah, loose. A lot of people are loose today.
Some feedback there. What else will you try to get from the 45 and the 35 out there, too, in a Toyota before you head out on track, now that you've seen all this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the conditions are definitely loose. Like, the whole field seems to be fighting the same thing, so it sure feels like it's a track condition that's going to go away at some point. And so right now it looks like everybody's tightening their cars up. It's going to be interesting.
You?
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, but at some point it's going to go the other direction, and everyone's going to be complaining about tight. So I don't know if that's going to happen later today in practice or if it's going to be in the race, but sure seems like it's track conditions right now.
The tightrope they walk. Kim Kuhn, you're next.
Yeah, Kyle Busch out of the care center after a hard hit. Heard on the radio before the incident, you talking about the right rear's chattering. You couldn't trust him. Walk me through what exactly happened.
Yeah, I mean, just continuing to make changes and try to make improvements to the rear grip and getting the rear of the car more secure everywhere around the corner. Literally anywhere that I would push a little bit harder, I would feel rear chatter, and felt really good about the changes that we made there. Came out of turn 4 really hot and heavy and hard on it, and went off into turn 1 with too much trust and chattered the right rear and then corrected it. So, yeah, just not real sure how to find more trust, or when you feel something good in one corner, it's not there the next.
From top to bottom, how does this complicate things for you tomorrow during race day?
I mean, obviously it's tough for the guys, hate it for the guys, everybody at RCR, especially the 8 crew here, and I'm sure we'll rely on some of the 3 guys to try to help us get the backup car prepared overnight and get us into the race tomorrow. I mean, obviously we had decent speed, just trying to work on up to it and can consistently just get better and better with laps. So that'll be about the same thing we got to do tomorrow, just kind of, I was probably built up to about 75-80% trust. Now I'm back to 0 again, so just trying to figure all that out lap by lap.
Jeff, your thoughts on what Kyle Busch had to say there? Well, word trust, he said multiple times, is you got to have it. You've got to be able to expect your car is going to have the grip that it had the corner before. He said it. Came off turn 4, everything was great. So I shifted down into turn 1, and it wasn't there. But he had no idea it wasn't going to be there. And then he talked about now he has no trust. Got to find a way to rebuild that up. What a wild start to practice here at Finland.
I would imagine when he mentions about chatter in the rear wheels, it's probably indicating that he feels that the rear tires are coming up off the ground. It's just not gripping, lacking rear security. And the race car is what I would probably best describe rear chatter, at least the way that he was describing it to Kim Kuhn, who was giving him the interview outside the infield care center. Obviously, it's good to hear that he is okay. She didn't ask him if he was okay, but I would assume that he's all right. Outside of, the pride of wrecking a race car, for the race team. That part of it obviously sucks, but physically it does seem like Kyle Busch is okay. So 17 laps of practice again for him. On that 17th lap is where the crash took place in turns 1 and 2. His teammate Austin Dillon's put down 25 laps so far. We're back to green flag conditions. Group 1 will get several minutes to try to finish out their session. Obviously a bit of a cool down period there. Cars are probably going to handle a lot different on a heat cycle with the tires compared to what we would have had before that. At the racetrack shortly after. Dean Tate, Genius Math, thanks for tuning in. Iowa's just a standard oval. I mean, it's bigger than Bristol. I believe it's 0.8 of a mile. Slightly bigger than Richmond. The width of the racetrack itself is wider from top of the racetrack where the wall's at all the way to the bottom. But with the repave only in the first or bottom 2/3 of the corner, you're not necessarily going to see them utilize the wall on the outside of the racetrack like we did when the surface was completely old and we were still running Xfinity races every year there. I mean, you see guys fanning from top to bottom. Now everybody's basically fighting for that same grip strip, and there are a couple of lanes worth there. It is wider through turns 1 and 2 than 3 and 4 by way of how much they repaved from top to bottom. So if you were to have more of a passing opportunity, I would assume turn 1 would be that spot to make the pass. So Reddick back out on the racetrack, who was the quickest so far. It looks like almost everybody that is in this group outside of Kyle Busch, of course, is back out on the track again of the 19. And everybody's made at least 17 laps. And we've seen a couple drivers tick away over 30. It looks like Ross Chastain and Riley Herbst have ran the most laps of this first group so far, 38 and counting. John Ray, thanks for tuning in. 0.7 of a mile. Thank you for that correction. How am I doing? Doing pretty all right. Pretty all right. We're good now. We've got race cars on the track. I mean, what could be better than that? And almost 100 people in the chat already. Greatly for practice yet, elongated because of the Kyle Busch incident, which took place not really all that long ago. It was pretty lengthy cleanup. And I believe NASCAR gave these teams 5 minutes to round out practice. So they're losing out on 3 minutes of practice because of the Kyle Busch incident. Still obviously going to want to give these teams a little bit more time, but we also got to wrap things up pretty quickly because we still got qualifying to get through, and then the Xfinity race is at 4:30 Eastern, which is a little less than 2.5 hours from now. Sure, we'll have a slight cool down period between practice and qualifying like we usually do.
Indianapolis, Jeff, but their run through the in-season challenge just to get to that final round was very impressive with the names they knocked off.
Well, the in-season challenge presented an opportunity for something like this to happen, where a team that we don't normally talk a lot about because we don't run in the front can capitalize, and this became their season, right? Ty Dillon,
Yeah.
this is his best year in Cup for sure. He's done a nice job, and this was a chance to get some exposure and to show this team, and they took full advantage of it. Ty did a really good job and embraced it. It's fun to watch.
Beat Hamlin, Keselowski, Bowman, John Hunter Nemechek to get to that final round. So beat some pretty big names. Boy, Steve, though, the last month or so for Cody Ware has been rough. The Chicago brake failure last week at Indianapolis, had to get out of the car because he was just exhausted. But this hit in Chicago, I mean, just brutal. Look at this awful.
Watch the steering wheel. It folds right over, as it should. People have asked why that happens. Well, You know, you want the steering wheel to give way, especially if you hit it with your hands, your arms, even sometimes your head in certain situations. But yeah, 37th at Indy, 36th at Dover, 34th at Sonoma, 26th at Chicago, which is too bad because that was off at 13th at Atlanta. So, the high point of the season for this team was Atlanta, and you wondered how that momentum would go the right direction, but it really hasn't for this 51. The organization itself is in the news a little bit with some lawsuit stuff, just a lot going on in Rick Ware Racing. So you were hoping this 51 would find a little something here.
Yeah, ninth quickest so far for Cody. And putting my whole life savings on Cody Ware for a top 10 this weekend. I don't know. Top 10 in practice, maybe.
I hope he's young.
ninth right
I hope
now.
he's early. I hope he's early in his life. I hope his life savings are from his paper route.
Well,
And that's not late in his career.
I would say Iowa would be a tough place for a smaller team like this to be able to generate a top 10.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Rick Ware and Cody Ware. It's just you're going against the titans of motorsports, right? They continue to battle every week, and I love what they're doing. They don't make excuses. They show up and they keep getting better. And I think that's something to kind of be highlighted. But when you look at the leaderboard, you got Reddick, Busch. You remember, he's ninth right now, but this is half the field. We have the other half to go, and that would be, in theory, the second half is normally the higher or the faster half due to the metrics. So, we'll have to see. How about 22 Logano? Jeff, should we be concerned 18th on the board, or should we say Logano was out here making sure it's cars around drive again on Sunday?
Well, he's slow. Really slow. Like, he just ran a 24:59. I mean, that is, a half a second off of what some other people can run. So that tells me that maybe, I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine that he'd be that far off and still on track. So maybe they're working on a little bit of fuel mileage work. Maybe they're working on how can we try to save fuel and still make a reasonable lap time. I don't know, but I don't like that he's 18th fastest overall in the first group. The 21 car is 15th fastest, has an affiliation with Penske. So I don't think that they're happy with their race cars by any means. Yeah, we mentioned Cody Ware a moment ago. He's actually the fastest Ford. Ninth quickest here in Group 1. So you got to wonder if the Ford camp has some work to do. For Newton, Iowa, they came out last year. First ever race here for the NASCAR Cup Series. Sold out crowd. Sold out again this Sunday. Iowa with a little bit of racing history as well. Going to be a fun night tomorrow night. Catch it all on USA.
We asked Howie Mandel to describe new hands-free cozy fits.
Oh, geez. Howie Mandel on a Skechers commercial. There we go. I didn't get to the controller to mute it in time. All right, Group 1 practice is just rounded up. Again, Tyler Reddick quickest, Kyle Busch second, although he is going to be in a backup car following a very, very violent crash in turns 1 and 2, where the car ended up braking sideways on entry into the corner and overcorrection into the wall without much dissipation in speed. Hit head-on into the outside wall. A ton of damage to that number 8 Chevrolet. Ross Chastain is in third. He's pulling double duty this weekend. We'll see him in the Xfinity race later on. Ty Dillon fourth, and Austin Dillon rounds out the top 5. So RCR definitely has speed, being top 5 in practice for both of their race cars who are in Group 1. We'll see how those times will correlate to the Group 2 drivers who are about to hit the racetrack. Shane Van Gisbergen in 6th, coming off probably one of his better oval performances of his Cup career last weekend. Looking to do that again this week. AJ Allmendinger 7th, Eric Jones 8th, Cody Ware 9th, and Riley Herbst rounding out our top 10. Daniel Suarez 11th, Michael McDowell 12th, Zane Smith 13th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 14th, and Josh Berry 15th. Noah Gragson 16th, Cole Kester 17th, Joey Logano 18th, and Joey Gase 19th. Yeah, Joey Logano being 18th, only ahead of the 66 for MBM, who was about a little over a second off of Logano's pace from fastest lap to fastest lap for both of those two drivers. That is not where you would want to see a Penske Blue Oval Ford. They've been struggling for speed the last couple of weeks, so maybe not to the extent that Joey Logano unloaded with this weekend, but I've noticed Penske being pretty deep in the practice sheets at the start of the weekend. Last week at Indy, it was the same thing across all 3 drivers. They were outside the top 20 in practice. As the race went on, it did look like they had quite a bit more speed. I thought, honestly, Austin Cindric had one of the fastest cars that day. Joey Logano on pit strategy was looking pretty good. Both Cindric and Blaney did not get Cindric and Logano did not get very good finishes because they both had right rear tire failures while leading their respected strategies at the time of their tire incident, but unloading pretty slow again. We'll see if they can pick up as the race moves on. I'm curious to see how Ryan Blaney does in the second group for Penske. Obviously, the 22, the 21, the Wood Brothers 4 that's affiliated in-house with Penske. Towards the bottom of the leaderboard for Group 1, Ryan Blaney is the defending winner of this race. Could just have massive setup difference between the 12 and the 22. We've seen that from time to time, especially with the minimized amount of practice time that these guys get on a weekly basis nowadays. Where you'll see one of the teams towards the very top, one of them towards the very bottom, just going complete polar opposite of strategies on how they're going to set the race car up for that weekend. And meet somewhere in the middle. Rima, Tony Meows, thanks for tuning in. How's Jones? He started off pretty quick. He dropped down to 8th as the session went on. He fired off really well in the short run. I would imagine his long run speed wasn't quite as good. But who did have a pretty good all-around race car was Ross Chastain. Chastain had the fastest 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 lap averages in that first group. Swept the categories. Should say Tyler Reddick had the fastest 5 lap average, and then Chastain had the fastest 10 through 30 lap average. Only 2 drivers made a 30-lap consecutive run. Only 4 had 25 with that Busch incident coming in the middle of it. Most of the Group 1 drivers had 20-plus laps in a consecutive run, though. But Chastain looking pretty good. At least with the fire-off side of things. And here is Ross Chastain standing with Mamba Smith.
Track seems a little slick, but you guys seem like you're handling it pretty well. How about it in that one car?
Our Busch Light Chevy Mamba doesn't have the most grip on the old asphalt. It's crazy how different grip levels there are here. Straightaways, corner entries and exits are definitely really, really slick. And then getting the newer asphalt, and even though it's went through a winter out here in Iowa, it still has a lot of grip compared to the rest of the track. So it's changed a lot of color, lightened up a lot, but for our Busch Light Chevy at least, for the farmers out here, it's definitely has more grip in the corners, which is good because I'm hanging on entry. I could have done what the 8 did a couple times, and on exit it'd be really easy to spin out. So yes, I'm loose, but as Phil Surgeon, don't over tighten it. As a race car driver, if you're tight in the center, you're done. So I'll have to deal with some of that, I think, going through the rest of the weekend.
Kim, Ross Chastain is just going to manage this one Busch Light Chevrolet.
Yeah, Mamba, lots of drivers finding the limit, including Austin Dillon's teammate, Kyle Busch. But for you, top 5 speed in that practice session, were you able to trust your car as much as you needed to by the end of the run?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with our Get Bioethanol Chevy. We did a good job of just kind of sneaking up on it. I feel like at the end of practice, we made a really good adjustment for the long run. I'm a little free down in. If we can make that a little better here qualifying, I think we'll have a good shot. We had to go out third, which is unfortunate, but I do think we've got a great car for tomorrow.
Austin Dillon running double duty this weekend. We've got Group 2 in practice coming up. Then after that, qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series.
Yeah, there's quite a few Cup guys that are going to be in that Xfinity race later. I mentioned Ross Chastain already. Obviously, Austin Dillon filling in for the suspended Austin Hill at RCR this weekend. So equipment-wise, going to be pretty good. Having the extra laps, I think, is going to be beneficial for Austin Dillon this weekend. Anytime you get extra laps at a racetrack, it does seem like it benefits from one day to the next, even with the difference in equipment between the Xfinity and Cup Series nowadays. Got to consider the fact that this track is pretty new to the Cup Series. Xfinity Series has ran here for a really long time, but only the second year we've seen Cup cars at Iowa Speedway. So a lot of these drivers either haven't had laps at Iowa Speedway or just haven't had laps here in a very long time, depending on how long they've been at the Cup level on a full-time basis. When they come back from commercial, I'd imagine Group 2 drivers will be out on the racetrack and will begin their portion of practice. They'll get the full 25 minutes like we saw. And what will the track conditions be like? Will they be loose? Like we saw a lot of those Group 1 drivers, it was mainly loose in is where the struggle was at the most. And it wasn't necessarily just one end or the other. I mean, we saw drivers getting loose in both ends, turns 1 and 2, as well as 3 and 4. Sure, the transition from the old pavement to the new pavement is maybe having the car hop a little bit more. That could be some of the loose conditions as well. Sure, it's not a gradual and smooth transition. Drivers are going to be feeling every single one of those bumps. We'll take a quick break here while we await the commercial break to finish out. You're listening live on KRC to NASCAR Cup Series practice at Iowa. School starting for you on the 19th. Man, yeah, that summer flew by. My school days are long behind me, but good luck to you. The grass is always greener on the other side. Yeah, Dylan's in Xfinity. Carson Hocevar is going to be in the Xfinity race later. He'll be driving the 11 for Colleague after the announcement earlier in the week that Josh Williams will not be returning to the race team. Originally was on a 2-year deal, which signed last season with Colleague Racing, but not going to finish out the second year for him as they look to rebuild that program at the Xfinity level where wasn't all that long ago. AJ Allmendinger competing for championships, winning races. Justin Haley winning races down there. Chastain. So getting some cup level experience with Hocevar in the seat this weekend.
Yeah, so kind of zoom in here just on turn 1 and get an idea. Remember, as these cars go in the racetrack, they're lifting in kind of this spot right here. This right here is all old pavement. The new pavement, we'll see how Picasso does here. The new pavement is right there. All of this is new pavement. It's smoother. It has grip. And that's the idea. But you have to, get to the new pavement. It's kind of like sliding across ice to get to the grip or the sandy section on the other side. And Jeff, when you watch that Kyle Busch wreck, it starts all the way back on the old pavement.
Yeah, it does. So watch. Here's Kyle Busch. Here's the wreck. Watch the back of the car. He starts to enter the corner. He is on the old pavement. The back's around right there. Stop it right there. So it's already loose. And as he transitions into the new asphalt, I think he's so far around that the new asphalt just could not get the back of the car under control. And then just trying to save the car, a little bit of overcorrection, and then he couldn't get it back.
So did you feel the difference in pavements in the pace car today?
It's obvious. You're going down the straightaways and you are on like an old, tarred road in the back country. And as soon as you get on the new pavement, you're on the interstate. It's smoother. There are some ripples, but the corners themselves, I told Jeff, I thought it was one of the smoothest racetracks we run in the absolute corner, but you have to drive across the gravel to get there.
And that's exactly what we just heard Ross Chastain talking about, right? Is that, and once you get there, it's got a lot of grip. But Fryer, and here he is right here, right? Watch. Bubba Wallace, new grip right there, right? So before you get there, and all the problems that we've seen have been on the turn 1 of the racetrack where Bubba's heading now. So he's on the old asphalt, right there, he's on new. Over under Stevie, if a car goes into the wall on this Group B.
Best drivers in the world. I think they've made some adjustments. I think all of the cars. Here's a great look right here on the front bumper of Dave Hamlin. You can even look at it. See that pavement right there, and then you see just like the amount of aggregate. Well, it looks crazy, but it's just totally different. Center jumps to number 2 on the board, so the Fords figured it out here quickly. Oh, that 48. Oh,
Had his hands full as well, did Alex Bowman.
I mean, I know it doesn't look like much, but you know, it's a lot.
And that's its run. You talked about how smooth the new asphalt is. Well, the old's not. And you can see the car moving around on the old asphalt. It is a noticeable difference just driving around.
Yeah, so right here, 48 out of the gas now. Back wiggles and it settles. Now it's tight, 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 tight. Now you pick up the throttle a little bit. Run the back wants to come around. That's just the general balance shape of the racetrack. Cindric to second again. Blaney to fifth. We were talking about the Fords, and we heard from Mamba, who talked to the engineer of the 24, how, hey, we're going to make adjustments from first practice. So let's remember, Joey Logano, and I said, hey, all the Hendrick cars were on practice. Well, Penske had them split. They had Barry and Logano in P1. They have Cindric and Blaney in P2. I would imagine they've made changes because here it is, the 2 and the 12, much better than the 22 and the 21 from earlier.
And meanwhile, Hendrick has 3 of the top 5, but Bubba Wallace leading this group right here. And man, Jeff, did the world change for Bubba Wallace? Not only a crown jewel win at Indianapolis last week, but now locked into the playoffs as well.
A huge win. And to get it, he had to be one of the very best in the business, if not the best, Kyle Larson. And this race impressed me a great deal with Bubba. Think about the red flag period, right? That's a time when you're sitting in the race car all by yourself. It's hot. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to overthink it. He did not do that. And on multiple restarts, he had to step up and get it done. This, to me, could be a game changer for Bubba's career.
Well, and we talked to him after up on the desk, and we said to enjoy it and to celebrate it. And if you follow Bubba Wallace on social media over the course of the week, he did. Bravo. There was a couple late night posts. There was a shirtless Bubba spraying champagne with his crew in the pool. Like, look, they're hard.
Yeah.
They're hard to, you said it's not easy, right? The other part is some guys make it look easy enough that maybe you feel like how much should I celebrate? Never enough. Looking back, I wish I would have celebrated them all more.
He said he threw Dave Rogers in the pool, which that was his crowning achievement after the win. But he told me he felt like a lightweight. He said he had a couple beers and a bourbon, and that was it.
Well,
Had to go to bed.
I'm going to blame it on the work he put in all day long.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Dave, what's going on, man?
I'm just listening to Bubba right now. He says the car is neutral. He had a chance to hear from his teammate Tyler Reddick while it was still quiet. And I leaned over to Tyler as well and said, Tyler, what'd you talk to Bubba about? He said, well, I wanted to understand the handling characteristics of my race car. I said, was loose in one of them? And he laughed about like that. He said, yeah. Did it look that way? And he goes, yeah. I said, absolutely. He said, yeah, a couple of times. Nice save for Tyler Reddick, top of the board in the first group, and now passing that information on to his teammate, who has just gone to second on the board.
So we talk about the 2311 camp. How about Joe Gibbs Racing going to the top with Christopher Bell?
I won't even make you wait till the end of practice to ask me who I think the best runner I made. I'm just taking a cheap look ahead of my test. Right now,
This one?
Bell, hands down. Not only does he have great speed, but he seems to be pretty consistent. Now, as soon as I say that, he had a moment, a big moment on this last lap. I think Larson's good, Bell's good, Bubba's good. I mean, your normal guys, Byron. But this Bell car looked really, really, really consistent. All of a sudden, had a little moment there on the time chart. I don't know what happened, but you see 23:51 fastest lap here, and he's going to quickly top all the ranks the more he runs. Although Flyer also has run some pretty good laps.
Oh,
There
Bell.
There's
Another
those
moment.
moments. There are those moments.
And so when that happens, it's like a second and a half, 2 seconds on lap time. I mean, you turn into full survival mode. Just kind of throw the lap away, make sure you don't crash the race car. But what happens tomorrow? Like, this is practice. No big deal as long as you don't wreck. But if this happens in the race, that little bitty looseness getting in the corner, you're losing 5, 6, 7 spots right there.
Well, I'll tell you what happens tomorrow when you have this big correction is the driver, the 24, drives by you because he's just a little bit slower than the 20, but he has, I'm going to say yet to have the correction. I'm not going to say I was so confident about Bell, then he didn't.
No, you just went with
Well, the 24, he's run 15 straight laps with no real mistakes as far as lap time goes. We'll have to just see what he says after he gets out of the car. If he likes his car, I don't know why he wouldn't. 10 lap average, Byron leads. Man, this is pretty fascinating, to be honest. The Goodyear tire has a ton, I was going to say it has a ton of grip. Let me change that here. The Goodyear tire stays consistent with its amount of grip from 1 to 25, meaning not a lot. I think they're slipping and sliding, which is why they could, an old tire still come out here and produce good lap times.
Right? Think about all the conversations about all the technology that we have,
Yeah.
all the simulation that we have. And then you come out here and you're like, oh no, we got it all wrong. And that's what we see is that these teams are very, very smart, but there's some things you can't measure. Lack of grip, tire change, there's weather. There's just things that you don't always understand. And it's always throwing surprises at you. And that's why we see so many winners every year. It's exceptionally competitive. So many good teams, so many good drivers, but the very best, they're not going to get it right every week.
We talked about Bubba Wallace getting that big win, but let's not forget it had been a while for the drivers at 9 Chase Elliott. Then he went down hometown Atlanta, the draft track with this move on the 6 of Brad Keselowski. They got a little bit of what I'll call non-help from the Delta teammate. Yada moment. It was like, oh no, can't push you. Didn't push the 6. Chase Elliott went to victory lane. I talk about crowd ecstatic. Oh man. I mean, and Chase, a very reserved, normally Chase, but we got to see some emotion out of Chase.
Totally emotional. I think that win at that place just meant so much to him.
Yeah.
And just the timing of it to be able to lock them into the playoffs officially in 2025. Everything. I would add to it and say how he won it. Because his last 3 laps that he drove to get to the lead was incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
He did everything right. I mean, I think anytime you can put it all together late in the race and make the moves that he made and then make it work, that's just so gratifying. Chase is normally to your point, Jeff, a very consistent driver. In that race, I talked to Alan Gustafson afterwards, and he said, I've never seen him be that aggressive in a super speedway race. All night long, he was the one willing to put it 3 wide, willing to go on the outside of everybody else. And that's not normally the way Chase Elliott plays the game. Well, it worked. And so now you do it again, right? And you have to accept the consequences of doing that. There's going to be times you're going to wreck. There's going to be times you're pushing the issue at Daytona, at Talladega, at Atlanta, and it's not going to work out. But the guys that are aggressive more times than not, they end up winning those races. I know that his driver, Bubba Wallace, took home the big prize, but Steve, I'm going to go with Indianapolis for the honorary mention for incredible drive to Denny Hamlin. I mean, a backup car, and this backup car, for perspective, had been riding around in the truck all year long as the backup at intermediate tracks. 7 races in the back corner. That's an impressive race for Denny Hamlin.
An impressive race, and I think Denny, who said on his podcast,
Oh, Denny!
torn right to celebrate as an owner as he goes to the wall right here. Marty, you have the announcement curse. If we go online,
Don't
you give
start
him
that.
Oh, that's what happened. He fences it. You talk about Denny Hamlin. He right sides it. What I was gonna say though.
When that happened.
Yeah, I think it was me actually. To your point though, what I was gonna say about Hamlin is the record qualifying. I think it might have cost him the victory on 400.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens to 11. I'm guessing loose in. Look familiar?
Yep.
I mean, the tire tracks almost aligned with the 8 of Kyle Busch's. Denny was just lucky enough to get this save. Let's go on board. Just a great job. There's some light contacts. But if you go back to Indy, if he doesn't wreck that primary and qualifies 5th, does he have car enough to win the race? I don't know. Did an amazing job. That was a great shot in the bumps, too. That right rear tire kind of like skips over. Maybe we can see that one more time. Watch just the right rear tire, and it kind of skips. You want to talk about loose at a bad spot. Man, that thing is turn 1 entry. Big issue.
Yeah, the difference is, Steve, he doesn't, watch the car bounce, right? As soon as it bounces, that helps make the car loose, Dave.
And Jeff, he wanted the crew to know entry stability was part of what he was dealing with, but also immediately came on the radio and said, no wheel damage. So, Jeff, pretty hard to get into the wall for your crew, but he just said, I want a slight adjustment, and they're going to send it back out.
Well, what he did, Dave, is he pulled a ton of speed out of the car. As he got in trouble and knew the car was going up the racetrack, what he did is just kept slowing the car. He knew ultimately he was probably going to hit the wall a little bit, and he did a great job of kind of just riding the wall. I don't think there's any significant damage here. And see, when you think about Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, that means that combined, they have 121 Cup Series wins. I think that just shows how hard this track is this year.
Well, and we've seen 10 other cars that were wrecking that didn't wreck.
Yeah.
So that's also the level that these drivers have just accepted they're going to have to be uncomfortable because no one wants to get to the middle of the corner and have the car not turn well enough. So this is a really crazy place these drivers are being asked to live at on balance.
Man, Iowa proving to be a very tough place here in 2025. Beautiful as well and perfect weather. Back to the rest of Group 2 in a moment.
All right, just past halfway through the Group 2 session of practice. Christopher Bell has the fastest lap time, 23.511 is that time. That's an average lap speed of 133.979 miles per hour. He's currently ran 15 laps in his session. Bubba Wallace is second quickest. Chase Briscoe third. Toyota's rounding out the top three of the leaderboard, just like last weekend at Indy, where they swept the top five in both practice and qualifying. We'll see what will show up for them in qualifying in a little bit, but practice looking pretty good across the board for them. And just behind them, Hendrick Motorsports, just as it was last week. Byron Larson, 4th, 5th. Then you got Tyler Reddick, another Toyota, in 6th. Brad Keselowski in 7th, who was the quickest Ford last weekend in practice. Ford inside the top 10, currently 7th overall. Chase Elliott is 8th, Alex Bowman 9th, and Denny Hamlin rounds out the top 10. 11th is Austin Cindric, Ty Gibson 12th, Justin Haley 13th, Ryan Blaney 14th, and Carson Hocevar 15th. Kyle Busch 16th, 17th for Ross Chastain, Ty Dillon 18th, Austin Dillon 19th, and Shane Van Gisbergen in 20th. AJ Allmendinger 21st, Jonathan Evenchak 22nd, Chris Buescher 23rd, Eric Jones 24th, Cody Ware 25th, Riley Hertz 26th, Daniel Suarez 27th, Michael McDowell 28th, Ryan Preece 29th, and Zane Smith 30th. 31st, Todd Gillen, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 32nd, 33rd, Josh Berry, Noah Gragson 34th, Cole Custer 35th, Joey Logano 36th, and Joey Gase 37th. 37 cars on the entry list for this weekend. Denny Hamlin did just get against the outside wall. He did come to pit road. He is now back out on the racetrack again. It was just a light scrape of the wall in turns 1 and 2, same area of the track where Busch got loose. I did notice it seemed like Hamlin's car broke loose a little later into the corner. He was already in the grip strip with all 4 tires, if you will. So it's kind of center off is where he got a bit sideways. Corrected it, kind of grazed the outside wall just a bit. Again, no major damage on his car, didn't wreck or anything, so we stayed green actually during the entirety of that. Corey Gibson, thanks for tuning in also. Priest would need a W to be safe, I would think. Yeah, it's not that I think 42 points is insurmountable odds for any driver to point their way in through 4 races. Like, that's a lot of races. Really, if you think about it, if you chip it away 10 points at a time, that could be one stage. And stage points can be in abundance at Watkins Glen, depending on what the driver you're trying to chase does for strategy purposes, if they think they got a shot to win, or they play it safe, but then you beat them in the finishing order. So I think points-wise, for most drivers would be okay, but because Preece and Buescher are in-house teammates at RFK Racing, they're usually running pretty close to one another in the running order. You know, most weeks it'd be Buescher outrunning Preece, but if Preece were to outrun Buescher, it would be like, say, a Preece running 9th and Buescher's running 11th, 12th, 13th the whole day. There's not much discrepancy there, so you're not really going to be able to capitalize on outpointing him, not only for the race as far as stage points go, but as far as race finish goes as well, unless, again, issues come about on either pit road, on the racetrack, maybe get into some sort of an incident throughout the course of the day, on a restart, whatever that may be. I think it would have to take something out of both of their control to allow for Preece to get any sort of a shot to point his way in. So with that being the case, and Busch being minus 81, I would like to think that you're in a must-win situation if you're not above the cut line going into these last 4 races. It's my thoughts on that, at least. About 7.5 minutes to go yet in practice. We'll take a quick break here. You're listening live on KRC to full-length practice and qualifying coverage at Iowa Speedway for the NASCAR Cup Series.
Last year as well. So we're just paying attention to our tire wear mainly, and relaying the make sure you're getting our pressure straight. That's it. Guys, I told Bill here I used to be a tire specialist for Randy Goss, and I was so scared my first year that we had Kyle Larson, and every time we went out on the track,
he was staring me down for everything I gave him.
Hey, Mom, but you know who else used to be a tire specialist? That was Steve Letard from like, what, 17 years old to like 23 or so, Stevie?
Yeah, but
I think the game 20 changed a little bit since you were a tire specialist.
it has. But I think Mama's doing a great job of highlighting when you have 20 minutes as a crew chief, you depend on every person within the team to do their part, right? The engineer may gather some of the data, but the tire specialist should know the most about it. What sets on the car, what kind of tire wear, provide that information for the team. Now, you may, as the crew chief, look at it all tonight, but you can't go around double checking. Your strength of your team is only as good as the men and women on it and their drive to be good. This is great. Have a mama down there interviewing.
Hey, Jeff, take me through. So Denny Hamlin's mindset. Last time he was on the track, he brushed the wall. He didn't hit the wall very hard. But do you go out as a driver and attack immediately on your next run? Denny's on his next run after hitting the wall.
Yes. But that's what makes these guys so good, is that you have to do that. You have to go find the limit again, because that's the only way you can tell your crew chief and your team what needs to be better. And so, yes, immediately you go out and you're like, push that car, because you got to find out if the changes that we just made are what we need or not. So we've been watching lap times. And I'm going to tell you, Justin Haley, he has not had the year that he wanted to have by any means coming over to this race team his first year. But if you look at lap times right now, this 7 car is fast. Had a really good week last week, finished 11th, finished 13th in this race last year. But more importantly, Steve, I feel like this team has some, they clearly, been on their heels a little bit this year. Things haven't worked well, but coming to a race track like this, when it's difficult to have pace, that's confidence building.
When you mentioned the 11th at Indy, 17th at Dover, 15th at Sonoma, that confidence does come over time. I saw Justin with his crew chief Ryan Spartan from the garage earlier. I point blank asked him, how y'all doing? And they said, slowly better. And they admitted it. They said, we were behind our teammates. We're trying to find what Justin needed. We're trying to be aggressive on the strategy. And I think that's what happens is we talk a lot about what strategy it takes to win the race. Well, when you lose confidence, you just keep working on your car. If you put tires on, well, you're not going to drive good. You're not going to drive back to the field. So at some point, you just have to be aggressive with the calls. And I think that 7 now has that little bit of that momentum where they're going to come out here and call the race like they should run at the top 15. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, you mentioned that 11th last week at Indianapolis. That was their best finish since Miami.
Yeah.
Back in March. Meanwhile, Brian Keselowski, who needs a win to make the playoffs. Talk about drivers that have been impressed. Best overall average, this 6 car.
And a sneaky 5th at Indianapolis. He was one of those teams at the end that just found their way through the chaos to end up inside the top 5.
Did you watch his onboard footage after the race?
Chaos.
It was all this chaos, cars running out of fuel around them, him passing cars, but an impressive run to the end to be able to get a top 5.
And I'm going to give him credit as owner. They brought Ryan Preece on and added a 3rd car, and I think that could be a huge distraction. I asked him point blank, what's up with the 6th car this year? Because I think Preece is over what I would have expected for a new car. There's Preece right there in the 60. And he said, to be honest, we just lost some people on the 6, and we're trying to replace them back to how important the people are. But it seemed like, he accepted his role as owner to make sure the 60 was ready to launch. And now he had kind of turned his focus maybe to the 6.
But Jeff, when I talked to Jeremy Mullins last week about this in terms of Brad Keselowski and tracks where they really thought they could legitimately go get a win, he said, man, those final 4 races of the regular season couldn't lay out better for us. Iowa, we feel like we'll be good at. Richmond, an excellent Brad Keselowski track. And then Daytona to finish it all off. I mean, there's a legit shot that the 6 or the 60 could win before the end of the regular season.
Oh, I think so. And I think we also have to remember that, this team is still building, right? This big improvement. Steve mentioned it, bringing the 60 team on this year. That's a daunting task to start a new team. And they all have speed. All 3 of the teams have speed. They'd have to connect all the dots and get better finishes at times, Dave.
And Jeff, a nice battle at the playoff cutoff line for the 17 above it and this 60 below it for RFK Racing. Of course, Brad Keselowski trying to help them both or all 3 get in. So at the beginning, the 6 running very well. Preece well down. And the main thing for Preece is he said, It's pivoting off the left front. I don't feel like I can drive the car at all. So they came in, made a change. He just went back out, hoping they made it better. Kim?
And for Carson Hosvar, he currently sits on the pit lane. He has been in and out of pit lane all practice long. Only 22 laps on the board. That's about half of what some of the other drivers in this group have run. They have been chasing the balance and the feel of the car this entire practice. Here's what he said on the radio. So that was actually after the third run he put down on this practice session. The first run, it was also bouncing. He didn't have the left front to work with. He needed to be better. They made some adjustments, and then it went the other direction. On the second run, too loose. It was absolutely undrivable. No right rear grip. Took all the security out of it. In fact, he called it wrecking. And then what you just heard was on the third run. Now he's on the fourth run. So again, just chasing the feel of that car for Carson Hocevar.
Bouncing on entry. I'm sure you've heard that a couple of times, Steve, at places like Martinsville and short tracks like this.
Yeah, and he did a nice job. I love what he said. He goes, I'm not hitting anymore, which tells me he was probably hitting one of the run blocks. Then he just gave us the audible.
Yeah, I like the sound effect.
Yeah, he gave us the sound effect of how it feels and how it drives. I mean, now he's off the gas. It's just
right.
And I'm going to tell you, 20 minutes is not long. And if you're struggling, it goes by in a flash. It's like triple speed.
It's been a terrific practice for Christopher Bell. Kind of went to the top right away, Jeff, and has stayed there.
Yeah, no surprise, right? He's so good at this racetrack. Think about the success he's had here. Xfinity comes to mind, where he always seemed to have a chance to win anytime he came to this facility.
Remember, they were really good here.
Practice winding down to the waning seconds. Christopher Bell times in with the quickest lap overall. I'm sure he'll be a threat for the pole and the race win tomorrow as well. Qualifying is about to begin here shortly. I would imagine another 10 to 15 minutes away from that. Obviously going to get a cool down period for the engine's sake for all the teams that are just exiting, and they'll have to push their cars on the front of the pit road line. Obviously, all the Group 1 drivers will be going first for qualifying, and then these Group 2 drivers will be shortly after, so it shouldn't be too long of a wait. But anyway, top 10 overall in practice. Christopher Bell fastest, who was in Group 2. Bubba Wallace second, Chase Briscoe third, William Byron fourth, and Kyle Larson rounding out the top 5. Tyler Reddick was sixth, but he was first in Group 1. Alex Bowman seventh overall, Brad Keselowski eighth, Chase Elliott ninth, Denny Hamlin rounds out the Fast 10. And we'll take a look at the lap average chart as well. After Group 1, it was Tyler Reddick with the fastest 5-lap average, and then Ross Chastain had the fastest 10 through 30 lap average. As far as Group 2 and Group 1 combined go, William Byron has the fastest 5-lap average. He also has the fastest 20-lap average. Byron third fastest there. So it does look like the Hendrick Chevy's looking pretty good on the long run. Bubba Wallace third quickest, carrying some momentum after a win last weekend. Was amongst those top couple of drivers overall when it comes to speed. And I'm sure will be a threat for the pole in a little bit. So practice is just concluded. Qualifying will be up shortly. And these teams get two laps, for qualifying. So 2 attempts to try to set your fastest lap. Obviously, the fastest of the 2 laps would be your set time for your time trial. Any track 1 mile and less in length, we see 2 laps per qualifying run. You don't have to necessarily run a second lap if you don't want to, but I would imagine most of these teams will try to better what they did from lap 1. I think we're going to see quite a bit of a difference from lap 1 to lap 2. It did seem like a lot of the drivers put their fastest laps together in practice about 3, 4, 5 laps into the run, even with the amount of fall off that we did end up seeing. Alpha Draco, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Jordan R as well. Saw you in the chat. a little bit ago, asking on the update for what happened. Yeah, so pretty much what happened in practice, Group 1 firing off fast, Toyotas, towards the top of the leaderboard with Tyler Reddick being the quickest. And then you jump into what happened later in that session, Kyle Busch having his incident. Everybody was pretty much having loose on entry problems, which is also what led to Busch's crash, where he had a bit of an overcorrection through turns 1 and 2 and absolutely demolished his race car up against the outside wall. So he's going to be the only one of the 39 or 37 cars this weekend who are not going to be participating in qualifying, which will definitely have to unload to a backup car. Get the qualifying order up on screen here shortly. Cody Ware will be the first driver to make a qualifying lap. Then Joey Gase, Austin Dillon, Noah Gregson, followed by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Eric Jones, Ross Chastain, Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, and Riley Herbst will be the first 10 drivers in that order to make a qualifying run. The last few drivers to go out will be Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson will be the last driver to qualify this weekend. Based off the metric system, of course, that NASCAR uses, which combines most recent finish, fastest lap from the prior race, and then owner and driver standings. Yeah, our light goal was 50 for the stream today. We are very close to that already, and we're just about to get qualifying started. I don't think we're going to have too long of a break period between practice and qualifying with that Busch accident happening. They're going to try to get things rolling over quickly. Probably won't have many commercial breaks, if any at all, during the course of this session as well. And a little over an hour and a half before the drop of the green flag for the NASCAR Xfinity race later this afternoon. We will have full flag-to-flag coverage for that one. 250 laps of scheduled distance later today. Tomorrow's Cup race at Iowa will be 350 laps. And we will begin our stream tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, beginning with our pre-race show. Again, 4:30 p.m. Eastern today for the Xfinity race. So 2 more live commentary streams on the weekend. I am going to be doing a NASCAR 08 stream tomorrow afternoon as well before the Cup race. I plan on doing the truck race at Atlanta. So about a 200-mile event there, 134 laps. We'll do an Atlanta Cup race and then lead into our Cup coverage soon after that. Yeah, I don't want to get into any trivia during the stream right now. I really don't think we're going to have to wait too long for Cody Ware to get things started.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need something out here to that people can wear around Halloween or something.
Well, here's right here. Lap time on the left want to be lower. That's the idea. You see over here on the right, the 9, the 5, and the 12. Those are the 3 different colors. So remember, the goal is to be towards the bottom. Lap 0, as we go to the right, is kind of the long run. If you look at all this, it's a little messy, but the thing that really stands out is the 5 car. Look like right here. Look how low this red line is. Out around lap 25, say to 20 to 28 or even 30. Faster for sure than the 9. Even faster than the 12. But the thing I want to point out that we don't normally see are these crazy looking spikes. These are new. You know, normally we go out there and they run lap after lap after lap. It looks like that gray line in the back that's kind of flat. But these guys are slipping and sliding. So, Jeff, you talk about it. When you make a big mistake like that, that's how much you slow down. I mean, what is this? This is like 1 second off for the 5 car on 1 lap. And you just can't afford that tomorrow, right? But the problem is, what do you do about it? Because I can fix that, and I can fix the corner entry, but then I can't get to the center of the corner. So what compromises are these teams going to come up with to deal with it?
And what did you say? Each one of those flips, Steve, is what, 5, 6 positions? When you have a bottle like that, you're going to lose 5 or 6 spots in the race.
Absolutely. If not the race car. Right? We've seen it already cost Kyle Busch, so you'll get somebody else.
On a restart, about 20 spots. When we come back, time to go qualifying for Iowa's Cup Series race tomorrow. It's an eventful because will it be a calm qualifying? We'll find out.
Yeah, that's something I haven't noted yet on the stream, but last weekend at Indianapolis, it seemed like practice rolled off pretty. I mean, granted, we had a short practice session. There was only 25 minutes, and everybody was on the track at one point in time. So it was a lot different than this weekend. They didn't really get the full use of the 25 minutes. Plus, they were supposed to have a 50-minute session, but that got rained out on Friday. But anyway, practice relatively calm last week. They got into qualifying, and that was absolutely chaotic. The race ended up happening. I don't think it was as chaotic as what the qualifying run ended up being, or as unpredictable. It seemed like if you qualified well, you really ran well, you finished well, outside of Denny Hamlin, who had to start at the back because he crashed in qualifying. But with as slick as the racetrack seems to be for practice, and even all the way through Group 2, again, Denny Hamlin had problems middle of the session, even after being able to see what all the Group 1 drivers were dealing with, and the teams were able to maybe adjust on the cars, make it a bit tighter, still having loose handling conditions, and now they have to go out there and try to put together their fastest 2 laps they possibly can. We could lead into more mistakes like we had for qualifying last weekend with drivers trying to push the issue. So I think it's going to be a fun qualifying session to watch here. We always like to see drivers on the edge of control. I'm also curious to see if the track conditions are going to be similar for the race tomorrow, and even the Xfinity race later on today as well. Cooler track temps this year than what we saw last season for the Iowa Speedway race weekend, but it's shocking to me that the track temps are cooler, but the track seems looser. You would think it'd be the other way around. From one year to the next, you wouldn't think there's going to be a whole lot of degradation in the newer asphalt in the corners. It does seem like there's quite a high level of grip still in the center of the corners, just rolling in. You're in the bumps when you're getting out of the gas and trying to turn the car down to get it into the grip strip. And that is where the most problems have been caused so far on the handling side of things. So Cody Ware's out on the racetrack, beginning his qualifying session. Again, he'll get 2 laps. He's the first driver out of 36 who will be making a qualified run. Again, Kyle Busch will not participate in qualifying because of a crash in practice, so he will be starting at the rear of the field in a backup car tomorrow. 23.633 on lap 1 for Cody Ware. Going up out of turn 2. Second lap was not as good as the first, so lap 1 will be the quickest of the 2 laps for Cody Ware. And I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the case for a lot of the drivers. I do think we're going to see quite a few of them, especially when we get more to the Group 2 drivers and people in better equipment as we work our way down our qualifying sheet. You're going to see a lot of pickup on lap 2, I believe, for the faster cars. On to Joey Gase in the 66, who's had a couple of cup starts so far this season. Seen MBM at the track, I'd say more this year than what we saw last season from start to finish. Quite a few different drivers wheeling that 66 machine this week, or this year, excuse me. 25.275 for Joey Gase, on lap 1. He was definitely noticeably off in practice as well, compared to the teams that are running every weekend, just limited on resources at MBM. Mama Smith has caught up with Josh Berry, who's going to be rolling off for qualifying in the middle of the group.
Aggressive, it seems like out there.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a lot of people here. And it's definitely lost some grip. You can see in the visuals of just how much different the pavement looks. So yeah, we fought a really loose car there in practice. These guys are working hard trying to get it closer here, and ready to re-baseline here with the Menards Master Course Tools Ford Mustang Dark Horse and see how we do, really. So just gonna go try to hit 4 good corners. That's all you can do.
This place is quite a lot to handle for these guys right now.
Joey Gase with the King of the Hill paint scheme this weekend. He's got Hank Hill all over the hood of the race car, too. Fun to see for any King of the Hill fans out there. Austin Dillon, the other Austin. Austin Dillon actually filling in for Austin Hill for the Xfinity race later today. But Austin Dillon, who was top 5 in his group of practice, ended up fading a bit on the overall timesheet. He was just inside the top 20, I believe 19th overall. 23.271 for him as his fastest of his 2 qualifying laps. And that will put him atop the leaderboard of our first 3 qualifiers. Again, Dillon, a win at Richmond last season on a similarly styled racetrack to that of Iowa. Seems like RCR rolled off with very good speed, especially to those that were in comparison in Group 1 when they first hit the racetrack. So I'm curious to see what Dillon can do this weekend. Pulling double duty and having those extra lap times with running the Xfinity race later today, going to be huge for him. Had a big loose moment after hitting a bump before the entry of turn 1 on his second lap that definitely cut that second lap time down a bit. His first lap was the quickest. Noah Gragson, after lap 1, who is now on the racetrack, will time in with a 23.554. And lap 2 was a 23.509. So a little bit faster on lap 2 for Gregson. He's the first of the 4 drivers who set their fastest lap on their second lap of the session. So ripping through qualifying quickly here, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now on the racetrack for GTG Doherty Racing. Top 16 in points for most of the first half of the regular season for Stenhouse. And then had that Carson Hocevar deal in a couple consecutive races. And since then, it's fallen outside of the top 20 in points. Definitely in a must-win situation to make the playoffs. Looking to bounce back and have a decent run here. Stenhouse does have an Xfinity Series win in his career at Iowa Speedway. Had that wild one back with Carl Edwards when he was blowing a motor crossing the start-finish line. Edwards plowed into the back of him as they cross the stripe. And here is Stenhouse. Looks like 4th on lap 1. I know 23.640 on lap 1 for Ricky. And lap 2, he was definitely quicker. 23.549 for Stenhouse, 2nd out of 5. Almost 2/10 off of Austin Dillon's lap time, a fellow Chevy driver. First Toyota in qualifying is now up. Eric Jones on the 43 for Legacy Motor Club, who has really turned the corner middle portion of the season. Both the 43 and 42 seem to be showing quite a bit of speed in recent weeks. Last weekend at Indianapolis, they were both top 5 in practice. Jones had an issue on his qualifying lap where Nemechek was still able to get in the top 10. But speed is there at the start of the race, and kind of inconsistent with the race finishing results in that stretch of races, the good ones at least for Legacy, but definitely some promise to be shown as that small team continues to grow. Probably had the biggest marginal gain, I'd say, of any organization from last year to this year. If you had to give me a list of all the teams who are most improved from one year over the next, I would say Legacy Motor Club to this point here in 2025 is the most improved. Second place for Eric Jones in qualifying. He's within 1/10 of a second of Austin Dillon, 23.365 on lap 2 for Jones. 6 down. Next one up is Ross Chastain, who was the fastest car alongside Tyler Reddick in Group 1 for how practice went. It was the long run speed that was a bit better for Chastain than that of Reddick, who had better fire-off speed on the short run. Chastain struggled with qualifying for most of this season. Bit of a struggle on his first lap as well, 23.846. Even behind Cody Ware's fastest lap. So I'd imagine there's going to be a big improvement here on lap 2 for Chastain. And he is not going to really improve much. He jumps to 3rd, but the lap time well over 1/10 off of Austin Dillon still. 23.402, fastest lap for Chastain. On to driver number 8 in the number 38, Zane Smith. Second of the Front Row Motorsport Fords to put down a time trial run. First lap, 23.575 for Smith. That's 6th. The last few drivers that have gone out have made a pretty big jump from lap 1 to lap 2. I'd expect the same to be said for Zane. And as Smith rounds out his next lap, he jumps up to P2, 23.338. Just over 600ths of a second off of Austin Dillon as lap times get closer and closer. That's a great lap for Dillon considering he was the third driver to run a qualifying run. Guys that early in the run usually don't post that quick of laps altogether, but that time's holding for now. Here's Bubba Wallace alongside Dave Burns on pit road.
Out of the ordinary.
Come on, you just won the Brickyard 400, man.
Well, we'll take that, but it's not that. It's been really fun just hanging out at the house, with the family, getting your mind right for it's a new weekend. So that, as good as that was, you got to set that aside and re-rack and refocus. So excited to be here in Iowa with all its crew. Clark Camry, it's got some speed. Just sitting here talking with Charles, trying to figure out how we can make it just a little bit better. Practice was pretty decent for us, but yeah. So all in all, it's been good. It's nice to have a win and no stress. Love it.
There you go. Relaxed, Bubba Wallace.
It's good to be relaxed.
Yeah, first career regular season win for Bubba Wallace as well. So all those years of fighting around the playoff bubble, just getting in, just not getting in certain years, doesn't have to worry about that here for the next 4 weeks. He did qualify in the front row last weekend as well, ran top 5 the whole race, and with as much speed as he had in practice, I would imagine he's going to have a legitimate shot to go for the pole or at least another front row start again today. As they were interviewing Wallace, it was Zane Smith again rounding out his second lap of qualifying. They're on to Ty Dillon in the number 10, and Dillon, after his 2 laps, posts the 8th quickest lap time out of 10. And then Riley Herbst, after lap number 1, 23.418, has him in 5th. That's pretty good opening lap for Herbst. One of the faster first laps that we've seen so far in this session. And if he picks up on lap 2, he might have a good shot to get the top time. Considering he was within 1/10 of a second of Austin Dillon already. He does jump up, but only 2 spots. Herbst to 3rd, 23.363. Next 10 drivers to qualify will be Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, Cole Custer, Kyle Busch will be skipped. And then Tyler Reddick, Josh Berry, AJ Allmendinger, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Ty Gibbs. Chase Briscoe's got a handful of poles this year, standing with Mama Smith.
The time before I got back. So yeah, that's encouraging, I guess. I didn't feel great about it taking off, but our Bass Pro Shop sort of guys did a really good job of getting our car better. Everybody's taking it to 7th. Yeah, it's way different than when we tested here 2 months ago. Just the line we're running, the commitment level, it's me and Bell were talking. It's pretty sketchy right now. So yeah, it'll be a fun qualifying session and see what we got, I guess.
Jeff, sometimes you just don't give the driver the times and they feel better about it later,
Yeah, Briscoe's second fastest overall in practice a little bit ago. One of his handful of poles that I mentioned actually did come just last weekend. In fact, all of them outside of the Daytona 500 at the start of the year have come in the summer months since the Coke 600. But 3 crown jewel poles for Briscoe. He had the pole last weekend for the Brickyard 400. He had the 600 and the Daytona 500 poles. Has the win at Pocono. I'd say it's been a pretty solid year for Chase Briscoe in his first full-time season at Joe Gibbs Racing. Once he got through those first dozen races or so, that learning curve, they are hitting in full stride as of recent weeks. Suarez still looking for a ride for next season. Whether that would be at the Cup level or not, we are yet to see, but we know he's not going to be returning with the 99 at Trackhouse Racing. Suarez has struggled in qualifying quite a bit this season. Most of the Team Trackhouse has, for the most part, outside of the road course side of things, but ovals, they've definitely struggled. Suarez and Chastain right on top of each other for qualifying again here. Suarez a bit quicker. 23.396, only 6/1000ths of a second faster than Chastain's lap. So Suarez posted 6th right now out of 12. Michael McDowell, who was soon after Daniel Suarez, sets the fastest lap we've seen so far in qualifying today. A 23.329, and I believe that is faster than any lap that was put down in practice as well. So Michael McDowell to the top of the leaderboard. And his first lap was the quickest of the 2. He did not have a pickup. He actually fell back a bit on the second lap, about a 10th slower than lap 1. On to Joey Logano in the 22.
line, Steve? Are you watching all that and maybe you change kind of your thought process?
You were coming, you would have had a pretty good idea what it looked like last year and what some drivers I think are better on lap 2. Some tires don't give you that opportunity. All right, let's see Jefford's prediction here.
Yeah, you said top 15 for Joey Logano.
Well, they just always seem to find a way to be better. We saw the Penske cars in the second session were way better than the ones were in the first session. So I think they learned a lot. They applied that.
The Hot Brothers Pizza on board for Joey Logano.
Now, in full disclosure, I did forget he was going outsourced.
You're going to be pretty good, I think.
He's getting close. Almost green there at the line for Logano, second quickest.
All right, he had a little bit of a moment getting into 1.
Yes, he did. That bump. Played it true again.
I don't know about your 15th, buddy. 23-2-4.
Yeah, I think that was too aggressive.
Logano's second so far, Dave.
John Hunter Nemechek starting his 100th Cup race. Hard to believe that that's happening. And we were just showing the bumps. So how was the bumps? How were the bumps with the 42?
Yeah, our Dollar Trees and Wiki Relax is handling the bumps fairly well so far. They had some pretty quick. So Wiki Relax this weekend. So hats off to everyone for the Motor Club. I feel pretty good. The race trim. We don't have a lot of fire up speed, so we're not exactly sure how we're going to qualify here, but study some S&T data, look through it, and see if we can go replicate some of these guys' laps and try and qualify up front to start number 100 here.
I was going to say, does it feel like 100 to you?
It doesn't. I think 60 starts in the next gen car now, and 40 in the other cars. So it's definitely interesting to swap between the two cars. So I don't know if I'll count 100 Cup starts until we get to 100 in this next gen car.
I don't know. I would count 100 Cup starts, and it feels like a pretty good watermark in your career.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I'll tell you, I'm excited to see where this Legacy Motor Club goes as we see Cole Custer clock in fourth. They unloaded with great speed and had great speed to qualify. I know John Henry ended up getting to the wall last week in Indianapolis, but this Legacy Motor Club is definitely starting to turn the corner. Here's Mr. Excitement Practice, the 45 Reddick. He was the first guy with the big save that we all noticed.
I love how he kind of played today like it looked of interest to you. I mean, yeah, come on. I mean, it was crazy, but he might not have been feeling that behind the wheel.
Oh, he was feeling it. he was down like it.
2/10 off for Reddick here on lap 1.
Looked like on the first on the first lap, the car got up the racetrack right in the middle of the corner. Was able to be a little bit lower that time, but not much improvement on that time.
I'm sure that bobble going into 1 had something to do with it. Hanging in there, though.
Yeah, but it's going to be down the front corner quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's fifth, but you got to remember, we've only seen 16 cars, 15 cars.
Look at the car. I mean, it hits these bumps. Look at that. I mean, and now you're asking the driver, all right, get it in the corner, get it where it needs to be with the exact right speed that you've got to carry to make good lap time, all while the back of the car is bouncing up and down. Tomorrow's going to be fun. I mean, today has been fun, but tomorrow we get everybody out there at the same time. Good lap right here by Josh Berry.
Really good.
I don't know if we should be surprised. Started third here. Finished 7th at Iowa last year when he was with Stuart Haas and in a Team Penske car with the Wood brothers. I'd say should be pretty good today as he goes to the top of the charts.
And remember how much he struggled in practice, but again, his cars made changes and made them much better.
So Josh Berry goes quickest. So now the first and second drivers have done it on the first lap, Jeff. As A.J. Allmendinger takes the green.
Good lap right here.
Yeah, this is within distance to find it.
Clouds over the racetrack as well.
Boy, A.J. flirting with it. Not enough on lap 1. A good enough for 4th. Can he find more time on lap 2? Corner exit, really good. Still green. How about the dinger to the top?
So now we start to see the racetrack swing a little bit in speed. What Austin Dillon talked a little bit about disadvantage in going early.
SVG will be the last car from Group 1. The track will take a little bit of a break after this.
Pretty good lap right here.
Yeah.
Oh, they got to be happy with that. 7th out of this group. SVG
That's green
continuing.
now.
Got in the corner.
Oh, man.
I like it though. Like, you know, he ran the first half of the year running every lap, but at some point I think you have to say, okay, I'm running all the laps. Now I have to get closer to the limit, closer to the edge. And last week in England, and this is heading the right way.
Nice run. Yeah, Stevie, for SVG. 7th so far. Pretty impressive. And he would have told you last year this is his worst track. By far. Wrecked in practice and then wrecked in the race as well.
I would have to say, you know what? You're right. I agree. Because it was a and here's the best part. That's what I love about talking to him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know what I was doing. Like, it's so much fun to talk to him and just see his respect for the garage. That's the really thing that shows for me, is how much he appreciates the talent of his competitors.
And the honesty with which he approaches it as well is quite impressive. Mamba Smith, I believe you're hanging out with Ryan Blaney on pit road.
YRB is with me. Last year's winner, our quasi home race for you. Ryan, the word on the street is this track is sketchy. What says you?
I agree with those statements. Yeah, sketchy practice, man. I mean, it was kind of like that last year with they're kind of lifting and breaking in the old pavement and then getting to the new stuff. And the new stuff kind of catch you. This year, it's just, less grip. So you don't have as much to catch you. So, you saw a lot of really loose race cars getting into the corner, a lot of loose race cars on exit. I think the sketchiest part is the entries. You're like full commit entry and just on the verge of the slip of your tire. And everyone's trying to get that better. Everyone's trying to figure out how can I get in the corner hard, but still rotate the center. So it's a challenge for everybody, but that's the fun of practice. It's the fun of going through it. And now you better commit even more in qualifying. But appreciate Wabash being with us. It's great to have them back on the car with our Ford Mustang and see if we can go later in the lap.
Dave, who you got for us?
That'd be Denny Hamlin, top 10 speed in practice, but a little cosmetic damage on the right side. How is the car for a pole run?
I don't know about a pole run. I'd take inside the top 10. If we could do that, I'd be pretty happy with the qualifying result. Practice, need to work on the car a little bit. Didn't exactly have the balance I was looking for, but we traditionally make pretty good adjustments overnight. We'll take a swing out of here and see if we can't get a little better.
Good luck. Thanks.
Denny Hamlin gonna go qualify here in just a little bit.
So check this out. You heard Blaney right here. So let's take a look at Reddick and look specifically at this left rear tire. This is turning into one. Watch this left rear tire where it touches the asphalt. And you're going to watch not only it squishes that we've seen before, but watch it move back right there, flat, almost off the ground, squish down again, and then it's going to bounce up again. That's what Blaney was talking about. That's the jump over the bump. And then you go down into the corner and hope that new pavement kind of catches you. So they're literally like jumping off the side of a building going into turn one. The left rear tire goes from fully compressed to completely unloaded to fully compressed again. Because you can just imagine how busy that is inside the car.
And there's no way to avoid it, right, Jeff? There's no place to move to avoid it.
No, because if you're trying to run below it, your entry to the corner is completely messed up, and now you can't roll the center of the corner because the reason they're out there is trying to set the proper angle up to be able to make the most speed to the center of the corner. And I don't see any way you can avoid it.
And I want to make it better, but we get to a point where I'm hurting everything else. I'm like, man, that's it.
Live with it.
That's as much as I can help.
Good luck. Ty Gibbs goes 7th. Justin Haley on the track. Impressive speed in practice, and he's backing up in qualifying.
So that was lower. You just talked about it right there. That 7 car was about a
2 or 3 feet lower and straighter into the corner, and that's why I thought it hurt his middle. But I think he's going to get away with it. It's going to be a good lap. We'll see if he does it again. And I mean, I thought a little lower into 1.
I thought it was lower for sure. Let's see if he does it again.
Yeah, lower. Yeah, I have a 2 tire widths lower maybe, and that's why he gains the speed on entry, but then hurts in the middle. Although he was able to get it off the corner.
Yeah, back to green. So tight. We talked about
It's
it.
going to be a good shape here.
Yeah, we talked about him in practice. Feel like he has really good long run speed in this car and short run speed. Impressive lap from Justin Haley.
Yeah, Justin Haley might be having one of his better qualifying performances of the season. Second with a 23.198. Pretty solid lap time for him. Austin Cindric on racetrack up next. Again, Ryan Blaney, defending winner of the race. So let's see if Cindric can go for the pole. Again, in my personal opinion, I think Austin Cindric might have had the fastest car last weekend at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but didn't get the finish to show for because of a flat right rear tire while leading the race in the middle going. This weekend, unloading with great speed, top of the speed charts for him initially, 23.10. 23.101. The lap time for Cindric. Chase Briscoe soon after tops Austin Cindric in qualifying. He is now the fastest, 23.093. Fastest of the 2 laps for Briscoe, so wasn't by much. Actually, the second lap was the one that barely beat Cindric's lap time. The first lap, though, by Chase Briscoe, even quicker than lap number 2. A sub 23 second lap time for Briscoe. In the high 22.9s. Speeds here at Iowa Speedway very fast. Briscoe eclipsed 157 miles per hour in corner entry speed into turn 3, and he didn't drop below 122 miles an hour in turns 3 and 4. Even more speeds carrying through turns 1 and 2. Only dropped down to about 124 miles an hour that last time by, so 23.004. It wasn't quite a sub 23 second lap time. My math was off from where Cindric had ran, but very close to it. And to beat that lap time, probably going to end up having a sub 23 second lap. But Briscoe, can he get yet another pole on the season?
My man can qualify, can't he, Steve?
Oh my goodness. That guy.
He can qualify.
I haven't heard from John Hunter earlier. Let's see what kind of qualifying lap he gets in.
And he talks about not having good short run speed. Teammate Eric Jones, 15th fastest so far. Yeah, we mentioned his 100th career start, the last driver to win in their 100th career start. His teammate Eric Jones did it in the Southern 500 a couple of years ago, but just 18th quickest for John Hunter Nemechek so far.
Yeah, man, it's a magic last week. We've yet to see it this week, and that's okay. Sometimes I thought that's the wall. Sometimes when you make games, you know, it needs a big track, high speed. Then you come here, you kind of got to pick and choose, you know, what you're focusing on and where you roll out new information, new ideas, new technology.
He'll admit their short track program has not been the best at Legacy Motor Club. Yeah, the tight radio transmission there from John Hunter Nemechek. We predicted it would go away from loose to being tight at some point. There you go.
I don't know if it's there yet or if it was just for the 42. Let's see. This 477 really had a struggle practice. In and out, not a lot of laps. Let's see if they got it figured out. Decent. I mean, less than a tenth off. I think that's a really good start for what I saw in practice.
As the wait and watch game begins for Chase Briscoe. Hocevar is going to be fourth quick on the first lap.
Right with his teammate.
As you mentioned.
I think after the practice that they have to feel good about that. You have to just be honest with yourself and your expectations. You have a great practice, you think you find something great, but if you've just been a little bit off, and I think that it's very important to communicate that to your driver as well. Like, hey man, we're just going to try to get something like right there. P3, great.
Yeah.
No damage to the car. Even if a few more beat you and you start the race at 10th or 12th. That's what you're looking for. Luke Lambert, crew chief of this car, he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, remember, he's running the Xfinity race. Josh Williams changed out of the Xfinity car. He's in it, qualified third, so going to get more track experience today in that series. You know, after the Bubba Wallace win, the cut line didn't move that much for Chris Buescher, but the position did. They are now on the cut line, still a 42-point cushion, but you know, being 16th is a whole different world, Jeff, than being 15.
Yeah, but they're not sleeping well at night because if you get a new winner that's below them in
sure.
points, now you got this incredibly tight point battle between he and Alex Bowman. So they're not in any way sleeping well. They know they got to be in win mode. So no pressure off, in my opinion, for this team. Well, one here in Xfinity back in 2015, he would love to pull off another win. It seems like he likes the summer this time of the year. Buescher seems to always find a way to just really show up.
But man, considering how good the boss man Keselowski was, 18th quickest for Buescher, not what they wanted at all.
No, not at all. Todd Gillen here to 34. Season best 6th at Indianapolis.
Boy, sneaky good run for them.
Yeah.
Whoa! Oh,
A little too wide.
Got way up out of the groove, out of the new asphalt and in all the debris. So this lap is destroyed. Got to gather it back up. Hit your marks here. Really difficult to do after missing them the first lap. Just much better.
That's an impressive recovery, Jeff.
It's been a tough year for Todd. Todd is a really good race car driver, showing what he can do. But this year, it just seems like when they're having good runs, things don't work out. Indy was, you said, was their best finish of the year. They need some positive momentum going toward the end of this year.
One of the drivers you guys pointed to as we see what happened to Todd Gillen here.
It's high into the dust. You see the dust off the back. At that point, you have to, you just got to live down the throttle, keep from crashing the race car.
Well, you guys mentioned William Byron, Steve?
Yeah, trying to, I guess, call it the hat trick or complete the cycle. One here in trucks, one here in Xfinity. Finished second last year. That would have been the cycle, but trying to improve on that. 9th lap one. I thought he was going to be a little bit better.
Man, Rudy Fugle told me it rained the last 2 weeks. They were 5th at Dover. It rained, got a restart, got wrecked. Then the rain at Indy. They were 3rd at Indy and then ran out of fuel at the end of it. Rain has not been kind to them.
He needs to go cut some tires to some track drivers. Who wants that big thing?
Exactly. Wait a second, that 2 top 5s. Just check out the bumps, Jeff. I mean, it's so much more noticeable in qualifying, isn't it?
So they're rough, but that one I will say bounced straight over them. I know that doesn't probably feel any better, but it looked a little better.
Brad Keselowski, nice practice session for that group. Let's see what they can do in qualifying.
Used all the racetrack on corner exit. Pretty good lap. You pointed out, Marty, Buescher's all the way down there in 19th, so Brad in 4th. Good lap for the 6th.
Nice.
Priest yet to come. That'd be the 3rd RFK car.
Seems like it's got a little more time gain here on lap 2. See if he can hang on to that. Oh, up the track.
Yeah, I got
way out of it.
back down here.
Yeah, backed out of it.
Yep, soon as Marty talked about him.
That time I was talking.
Please don't say my name. The guy standing next to me.
Goodness.
Once for Brad. Watch that front tire so you can see him off the internet. Just loose old corner entry. Trying to find more speed on that second lap. Laid a good first lap down, so just go try to find a little more.
Let's see what Chase Elliott can do here. Crazy to think 6 races ago, he was 104 points back in 4th in the regular season standings, and now he's leading at 5-4. That was 6 races ago.
Mr. Consistent. I mean, he's just been there each and every week. No DNFs.
I look at that Dover race, Steve. I mean, where they just came out and dominated. That's an unchased Elliott-like race where they just really led all the lap and finish it off quite the way they wanted to. But they certainly showed they can go out and dominate races like that. Elliott 6.
And then when you look at the Hendrick lineup and drivers trying to make playoffs, this is their 4th car, currently in the 15th spot points, but without a win. They would love to just kind of do what the 20 career Bubba Wallace did, take away any question about their entry into the playoffs, especially after their exit a year ago. Remember, it was a penalty after the Roval for total car weight that eliminated the 48. You know, it's just, you'd love to get back, trying to do it again.
And at plus 63, I think that looks good on paper, Jeff, but I know they're not comfortable in any way.
No, not at all. Well, a new winner, and that could turn into single digits.
Oh, sure.
New winner with an average run. You know, Bowman goes and runs 50, and say another new guy wins, he could be 15 points up the cut line.
And you have to assume that's what's
Yes.
going to happen. Now, what you do about it, Bowman got 12 fastest. But that's the problem, right? They're trying as hard as they can. It's not like they can just flip the switch and say, hey, we got 4 races left. We got to do better, right? I mean, they work hard.
On to Christopher Bell, who might have a shot to go for the pole. He was the fastest overall in practice. 6 drivers left remaining to make a qualifying run. After Bell will be Ryan Preece, then Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson will finish everything out. Time to beat right now is Chase Briscoe's 23.004 as he tries to go for what I believe would be his 6th pole of the season. And it would be front row start number 9 on the year for Chase Briscoe if he's able to get it done. As for Christopher Bell, wrapping up his qualifying lap, 13th. Quite surprised. I'll have to go back and look to see where he qualified at Phoenix, where he dominated earlier this season, because it seems like the shorter, flatter ovals have suited Christopher Bell well in his NASCAR Cup career, especially with the next-gen car. And this weekend going to be starting just outside the top 10, despite being the fastest in practice. So on to the RFK Ford of Ryan Preece, who needs a good qualifying effort as he's the first driver below the cutoff line on points entering the race tomorrow afternoon. And Ryan Preece not going to end up with a great lap. 30th at the end of both laps for Ryan Preece. Which is shocking because his teammate Brad Keselowski had a pretty good opening lap. Second lap wasn't great for Brad. He had to bail out of it. But 4th with a 23.119. And Preece is going to be starting deep in the field. Chris Buescher, though, does start outside the top 20, who was the driver he's trying to catch for the points side of things. So they'll be starting pretty close to one another, which I probably could have expected. Ryan Blaney wrapping up his 2 qualifying laps. 5th for Blaney, the defending winner of this race. 23.159 being the last lap he just ran. Just over a 10th and a little under a 10th and a half off of the current pole lap by Briscoe. On to the final 3, Wallace, Hamlin, and Larson. Larson and Briscoe tied for the most poles so far this season, so it'd be fitting that it might end up coming down to just those 2 as we finish things off. First lap for Wallace, 23.275. He's definitely going to have some work to be had to get anywhere close to the top time. Wallace was second fastest in practice. His teammate Tyler Reddick had a bit of an issue on his first lap, and Reddick was 20th as a result of where he is now currently at. Bubba picks up on lap 2, 23.247. He only picks up 3 positions from first lap to the second. 2 more names to go, Hamlin, Larson. Hamlin, most race wins so far this season. In an interview earlier in this qualifying session, said he'll take a top 10 qualifying effort. Doesn't really think he's got anything to go for the pole, even though his teammate is the benchmarker yet again for that top time. All right, first lap for Denny Hamlin, 17th, 23.274. Kind of similar to what Bubba Wallace ran, almost exactly same lap time as Wallace ran on his first lap, a thousandth of a second quicker. We'll see what the pickup's going to be for Hamlin on lap 2, if he does pick up at all. 23.219 on the second lap, so he does pick up a bit. And that will actually bump Denny Hamlin into 10th, which is exactly where he wanted to be. So we'll see if that holds. He might get bumped back one more spot, but either 10th or 11th it is for Denny Hamlin. Kyle Larson is last. Again, Kyle Busch skipped because he crashed at practice and is in a backup car, so it's on to Larson to go for the pole time. And he's got 2 laps to get it done. And again, the lap time to beat right now is a 23.093. Now, his teammate, William Byron's in second with a 23.088, and I think he could put something similar to that down. 23.089. It was a pretty good lap by Larson. Very close to Byron's lap. Third quickest on lap 1 for Kyle. One more lap to go for Larson to try to go for the pole. He's within a tenth of a second. A little bit of a gain is going to be enough to get him a front row spot, but he's going to need to gain over 0.08 of a second to try to go for the pole. And the second lap was not as quick as the first. Dropped off almost a tenth of a second. And so Chase Briscoe, yet again, has qualified on the pole 2 weeks in a row. And again, if I'm counting correctly, his 6th pole of the season, most of any driver. Chase Briscoe, the new rocket man out here. Didn't really see this out of him at SHR when it comes to the qualifying side of things, but this season, man, and it doesn't matter what style racetrack, super speedway, mile and a half, short track like it is this weekend, road course, but he's got qualifying down to a T. So front row for tomorrow's race will be Chase Briscoe and William Byron. Byron, by just a thousandth of a second, was able to edge out Kyle Larson. And you'll get to hear from the pole sitter, Chase Briscoe, in a moment. I had a big lag on my screen, so my TV's a little bit behind. That interview probably already happened, but I'll let you listen into it shortly. Jojo, thanks for tuning in. PC, thanks for tuning in as well. SVG was 21st, which is exactly where he was in practice also. He was 21st. Consistent. So again, Briscoe, Byron, front row, another pole for Chase Briscoe, and here he is yet again.
Yeah, all smiles down here for Chase Briscoe. We had to sweat that one out, Chase. You didn't think that lap was going to get it done, but now, what did you tell me? Only 4 times since Coke 600, you've not been on the front row and you got another pole here.
Yeah, it's definitely been great on Saturdays for our Bass Pro Shops Toyota. Would love to convert that to Sundays. We've been fast on Sundays too, just haven't been able to obviously come out on top. But yeah, just James, the entire group does such a good job on this thing to just get it better. You know, starting off in practice today, we were not the best car and ended up getting it to third there in practice, and obviously really fast here in qualifying. So yeah, I did not think that was going to hold. I think I was telling you I figured it was going to be like 6th or 7th. I was just a little too tired. I felt like I gave up a lot of time in 1 and 2, and I knew my 3 and 4 was good, but I didn't think it'd be enough. So yeah, really cool though to get another pole. Hopefully can convert it to win tomorrow. It's super cool once again to just be driving this thing with Johnny Moore's Bass Pro Shops, Toyota, JGR. This thing is just a dream come true to drive this thing every week. It's so fast, and hopefully can get a win tomorrow in it.
The boys in the booth said you are a qualifying fool. What are you doing different now that maybe you weren't doing before? Is it the same process?
Yeah, I'm just doing the same thing. I just go out there and try to drive it as hard as I can, and if it sticks, great. If not, then oh well. But yeah, I just feel like the car's potential is so much greater than what I've ran, in the past, at least in my Cup career. And just being in really fast race cars allows you to put up really fast lap times. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to see the progression. The beginning part of this season, I was not qualifying that great. I was under driving it, and I told James, just let me go drive the crap out of it and see what happens. And we've been doing that, and it's obviously worked for us. So yeah, excited for tomorrow and see what we got.
Dave, Chase Briscoe dodged the Marty Snyder jinx. We'll be on the pole tomorrow.
Mama, that's daily living for most of us. William Byron, very close to his 3rd pole of the season. Just missed it. What was lacking?
I don't know, man. That 19, they've got it figured out in qualifying. They do a good job. So yeah, I thought our car was good in race trim.
good there in qualifying, just hard to feel, like getting across the bumps and everything. I didn't have a great first lap, obviously. I had like a 27 or whatever, and just tried to up everything for the second lap and get more comfortable because I was just kind of bouncing across the bumps. So the Raptor Chevy was good today. We had some brake issues as well that we worked through, got that way better. So just really proud of my team. Thanks to Chevrolet, everyone back at Hendrick Motorsports Engine Shop. Everyone's been working super hard. So yeah, we've always been pretty decent here. So just got to hopefully be one spot better tomorrow.
We're curious about the bumps and what kind of a toll they might take on you over the course of the whole race. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's cushy in there. Got nice inserts, nice headrests, so it's fine. I don't care if it goes fast. It doesn't matter. So it'll just be tough to drive. This place right now is very tough to drive with the split pavement and just the bump content down the straightaways right on corner entry. So these cars don't like bumps, and having to hit them on entry is probably the most unnerving thing you can do. So just difficult to drive. It's going to be a tough race to just kind of manage the car all day.
Great job today. The challenge awaits tomorrow, front row for William Byron.
Yep, and here is the rest of the starting lineup for tomorrow's Iowa Corn 350. Chase Briscoe on the pole yet again. William Byron, as you just heard from moments ago, outside of the front row, will be starting in position number 2. In row 2 will be Kyle Larson and Austin Cindric. 2 Fords in row 3 of Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney. Carson Hocevar, Chase Elliott, row 4. Rounding out the top 10 in row 5 will be AJ Allmendinger and Justin Haley. Row 6 for Denny Hamlin and Josh Berry. Michael McDowell with Joey Logano, row 7. Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman in row 8. Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, row 9. And top half of the field, round out Cole Custer, Ty Gibbs in row 10. Row 11 will be Shane Van Gisbergen and Tyler Reddick. Behind them in row 12, Zane Smith and Riley Herbst. Eric Jones with Daniel Suarez, row 13. Row 14 for Chris Busch or Ross Chastain. Row 15, John Hunter Nemechek and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now to the back portion of the field, Noah Gragson and Ty Dillon in row 16. Row 17, Ryan Preece, Todd Gilliland. Cody Ware, Joey Gase, row number 18. And then row 19, Kyle Busch, who again crashed in practice, did not qualify. He'll be in a backup car for tomorrow's race. The only driver to do so for 350 laps. So thanks for everybody tuning in again. We did get to our like goal of at least 50. We're at 55 right now as we're rounding out the stream. Congratulations again to Chase Briscoe for getting yet another pole in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern for the live commentary portion of the Cup race. Xfinity race will be later on today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, a little less than an hour from now. We'll start our coverage there. Hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your next hour or so, and I'll be back better than ever here shortly.